What's the fastest way someone has ruined your opinion of them? Story 1. Hey bro, the Cybertruck has been released. Sigh, what a shit, my friend. Oh my god, I know, right? Can't wait to get my hands on it. To make things clear, I despise Elon Musk. The Cybertruck is shit, and I never wanted it to be released at all. Story 2. Said that he had been saying his partner for 4 years straight. I had only known him 7 months. No way am I being friends with someone who was doing that almost 8x longer than I'd know them. IDC that if it was a couple years ago, get help, not from me. Really shook me. Story 3. Becoming abusive, yelling, name-calling, standing over me and looking at me like he was going to hit me because he were angry about something else. Completely broke my trust. I packed my bags, my dog, and spent the night in my rental car, booked emergency flights back home the next day, and cut my trip a week short. He called 11 times that night saying I could come back there. No way that was going to happen. Like I said, trust was broken. He said later that he was so messed up about everything going on in his life, work, ex, kids, money, that he'd lost it at me over something that usually wouldn't bother him. Regardless of how unhappy you are about things going on in your life, don't take it out in those closest to you. They might decide it's not their problem and leave. Story 4. Not sure when it was now. 2 full years now, maybe. But someone who I was told was interested in me. We got talking, hung out a couple times, and at some point got on the subject of COVID. She was very anti-COVID, anti-vaccine. Made it a point that she's had clients spit in her mouth and she never got sick, so it all must be a lie. Haven't talked since. Now if we're talking what's the fastest way that hasn't happened, but definitely will ruin my opinion of someone, 100% is how they treat anyone who works fast food or restaurant jobs, and talking down about any hobby. The amount of times I see videos still of people who act like playing games is for kids, but then go on to talk about how they cheer at their TV for a football game. We both enjoy our hobbies. Don't act like mine is for a younger crowd somehow. I bring up football because it's not something I enjoy, but I see why they do. Story 5. When they find human behavior offensive. I had a coworker write me up because I smiled when she was giving me feedback. Reminded me that no matter who kind you try to be, a person with an F-it-up mentality will try to drag you to hell for anything they deem as a slight. Story 6. When you have a minor disagreement, and the person sends you a 3-4-paragraph rant about how everything was your fault, then puts you on block for days on end, not giving you a chance to hash things out or respond in any way, shape, or form. My little sister did that to me, and I eventually forgave her, even though she refused to apologize for her behavior, and then a friend of a friend did it a few years later. And the second I saw he had blocked me at the end of the rant, I just blocked him back and have never spoken to them again. While I did forgive my little sister, I lost most of the respect I had for her in that moment. Story 7. My mom once kicked me over and over again saying, "I'm gonna kill you." She did this when she was in her period, but I still hate her deeply for this. She continued doing this until my brother had to slam a pillow into her face and shouted at her. This happened around 2023. I think I translated it because I am Filipino. I'm 12 BTW in ARN as of 4:15 p.m. March 23, 2024. She used her sharp nails to pinch me, and it really hurt, especially when she did it on my stomach. The reason she did this is I almost broke the plastic which has her plushie she recently got. Then she apologized and told me to come to her, which I obviously said no. I hate her and her stupid plushie. I did it intentionally because I was having fun with her because me and my brother goof around all the time. But she also said, "I'm going to give you away. Find your own mother," which made me hate her even more. I am just keeping my hate a secret, and BTW, I don't have good grammar. So sorry, I wish I stayed with my father, and I posted this on my phone instead of iPad, because my iPad's notification for Reddit is for some reason connected to her computer or phone. Now she's watching a movie as if nothing happened. Sorry, I tried to keep this short. Story 8. I was having lunch with a friend who I thought was a little bit of an asshole based on prior experience. The war in Ukraine came up, and he went on a rant about Russia being in the right. That itself was not great, but it also recontextualized a few things in the past where he'd acted weirdly. I'm fine being friends with people that disagree about politics and such, but it made me realize how nasty his worldview was. If he had a reason, he'd excuse anything without remorse. It's easy enough to find a reason for something. Story 9, I wasn't directly there, but I still had respect for my ex following our breakup. Even though it was messy and we went no contact, I still loved them a lot, and I truly believed they were not a bad person by any means. They said it wasn't my fault, that it was all them, and they just didn't have enough relationship experience. They told me they just needed to be single, and reiterated again that it wasn't me. 9 months later, I reconnected with an old friend who told me he talked to them a few months following the break. He read out the conversation to me, obviously disappointed. My ex, without missing a beat or even saying hello, started talking about our breakup. They blamed my mental health for the breakup. It was all me. I was too much to deal with. I was a problem that they couldn't handle. They were saying this to a guy who knew me for over 4 years and even dated me at one point. And I was someone whom he considered his best friend for years. They were saying it to somebody who knew me inside and out and knew that wasn't the story. When family and friends were telling me that my ex wasn't that good of a person, I defended them. The fact that they so willingly and quickly talked shit about my mental health, something they claimed they accepted and wanted to work through, made me realize that they genuinely did not care about me for however long we dated. For some reason, cheating wasn't enough to ruin my opinion, nor was completely disregarding my well-being throughout the relationship. I tried accepting that as, oh, they didn't have relationship experience, but I think it's common sense to not cheat on a significant other and use your illness as an excuse. Story 10. During my trainee time, I had a classmate well in her 40s. She was kind, smart, and genuinely a joy to be around with. Until she opened her mouth about how the personal ID, Personalausweis, here in Germany has no legitimacy because the font has different sizes and how it tells that we're employees of the Deutschland GmbH *, who's a sock puppet for the US. After that, I knew she had some intelligence but zero wisdom nor thinking capabilities. She even slipped further and further into the conspiracy shit and ultimately lost her work permit. My profession as a caregiver has this thing, during COVID for several reasons. Refusing to get vaxxed was the least of the reasons if I can. The BRD GmbH is indeed a true thing. It's a so-called gesetzliche person by law, and necessary that the government can make deals with building contractors, for example. Story 11, I have 2 real-life examples. The first is the woman who said good when innocent children were murdered. She didn't like their race, apparently. A normal person would react with horror. I did. This woman, I still cannot understand her reaction, but I know she is an awful human being. The second was a coworker. He said if he saw someone's dog or cat out on the road while he was driving, he aimed for them hoping to kill them. WTF is wrong with you, man? Story 12. My 17-year-old daughter had a mentor for 8 years. Athlete, successful business owner, owns horses, and a house on a lake. My wife worked for her for about 3 years, and my daughter started working for her and did for about 1.5 years. My wife taught 12 classes per week. My daughter taught 2 classes per week and helped an after-school program for 3 hours per day, and another instructor taught 1 class per week. We opened up our home to have all of her students over for an end-of-summer pool party for 3 years in a row. Owner was considering making some changes. My wife said she didn't want to be a part of those changes. Boss made the changes anyway, as was her prerogative as it was her business. My wife tried to make them work, spending over $300 on additional certifications and training out of her own pocket. It then became apparent that it was not for her, as previously stated multiple times, so she put in her month's notice to allow time to find someone else. 2 days later, Boss Lady asks my daughter if she plans on leaving also. My daughter, being taught not to lie, says yes at the end of the school year. 3 months later, Boss Lady begins berating my daughter, swearing at her, and saying false and disparaging things about my wife to my daughter. Boss then tells her to leave and never come back, fires her and my wife, and sends my daughter home with both of their final checks. Within 2 weeks, she had given away, aka stole, my daughter's gear to other students. My daughter was flustered and crying and couldn't think straight when she was cussed at and fired, so she didn't remember to pick up her gear, because she was there literally 5 days per week. To take out your frustrations in such a personal and vile way on a young girl because you are mad at her mother is low. Story 13. Just any kind of entitlement. I have no patience for that, especially if it's just genuine confusion on why they can't have whatever they want and everyone won't do what they say just because they said it. Some people are so spoiled and out of touch, they actually have no idea the world doesn't just have to give them everything. Story 14. I was at a friend's house when I was young. We were all watching MTV. There was some rapper in his bouncing lowrider out in public. A car with a film crew was following them recording for the show. He was driving fast, then hitting the bounce, too. They were in the LA area. A motorcycle cop rides up beside the lowrider and stops them. The cop didn't even ask for ID or anything, just told them not to do that on public streets because brakes don't work if the wheels are touching the ground. A pedestrian could get hurt. Then he rode away. Suddenly, all of my friends began dogging the cop, calling him an asshole. I was like, huh? He didn't even write a ticket or make a big deal. He tried his best not to embarrass them. Then he left them alone. I just didn't understand them. I got up and left. Never had much to do with them again. They all went on to collect criminal records. I guess it takes a certain kind of stupid for that life. Story 15. I have this colleague who, up until a month ago, I considered to be one of my best friends at work. I had a deep level of respect for her. Then one day she tattles on me like some third grader for vaping and playing on my phone in the back room. My boss didn't even care. He was more irritated that she wasted the time to come find him and snitch about it. When I found out, I lost all respect for her in the blink of an eye. I don't talk shit about her to other people, but now I just ignore her unless the job depends on it. And I'll be sure to warn new people about her. I'm not going to bother salvaging the friendship because she's just going to do it again. Story 16. Though I met a cool dude, online that is, we were friends for some time, but after a while he took a complete 180 and started acting racist, homophobic, putting people down for the fun of it, even supporting r*p at some point. Blocked and cut off all contact after that. Story 17. AI had been flirting with a girl from work for months. I knew she was a single mom, but she was cute and funny, so I wasn't going to let that be a deal breaker. Anyway, I finally get her to accept a date, and we're out for drinks, really hitting it off. At some point I say, "I'm really glad you were able to get someone to watch Daughter's Name tonight," and she just casually replies, "Oh no, I just gave her some extra melatonin and put her to bed early." Full-blown record scratch moment. I clarified that yes, she left her 4-year-old at home by herself to go out for drinks. I told her I would settle the tab, and she needed to get home immediately. She acted insulted that I wasn't interested in going home with her. Story 18. 8 of us were working in something which involved everyone cooperating a great deal with a lot of weight and risk, and one of the girls fucked up. The man in charge was very aggressive with her. But in this particular job, that is not unusual during the actual activity, and whilst he was very rude, he was a nice chap and control is paramount. Then I, a well-built tall man, fucked Yup in almost the exact same way, and he just said, in a friendly manner, "Careful there. I do not mind arseholes, but you have to be consistent. If you shout at the small girls for fucking up, then you should be shouting at the big man too." I quit there and then, fuck that guy, I was not working with him. Story 19. I did a week-long paragliding training last year together with my sister. When we talked to one of the instructors to get registered, he looked at his list, saying both our names, correctly assuming who's who, I'm male. Then he proceeds to tell us how you can't know these days, how people are identifying themselves as, and he said it in a way as to ridicule trans people. Then he introduced himself not with his name, but simply as, "I'm heterosexual." I disliked him within those 30 seconds already. Later on, he found out that, despite having the same surname, we're not married to each other. To which his reaction was to ask, "But you're heterosexual, right?" Too bad I had to disappoint him since I'm married to a man. Story 20. When I was a lobster way back when, I really liked Jordan B. Peterson for his psychology lectures and stuff. Dude showed up on Prager U, a fake university on YouTube that had hosted the likes of Steven Crowder and Candace Owens, and started my whole political awakening in the opposite direction. Story 21. Senior year of college, I met this girl who lived above me, became friends, and I developed a crush on her. She's cute, caring, she would randomly bring me snacks to my room, and apparently super rich. Father owns multiple properties in the NYC, Long Island area, and mother doesn't need to work. She also once offered me some Gucci shoes to give to my sister. Anyways, once late at night, I was coming back to the dorm building, and when I walked in through the front door into the lobby, she was hanging with one of her super narcissistic, I say this because she has super high standards of men on dating apps. The classic must be 6 feet, hot, super fit, and doctor or lawyer or anything else that earns a lot, and drives a really nice car. Meanwhile, she's toxic and doesn't bring anything to the table. Friend in the lobby since her roommate was asleep in the room. They asked me to hang with them and I agreed. They asked if they could hang with me in my room. But my roommate was in there, so I said we can't. He likes his peace and quiet and I want to respect that. I go downstairs to drop off my stuff and come back up to hang with them. After a few hours of us scrolling through Tinder and Bumble for her friend, and responding to dudes sending her snap messages to come out to a frat party, we decided to call it a night. The girl that I liked got up and left her plastic water bottle on the floor, so I pointed it out, since I assumed she just forgot about it. She responds with something along the lines of, "Hey, the facilities people will just take care of it. It's their job anyways." Needless to say, I lost a lot of respect for her in that moment. Story 22. Just dropped off one of my best friends at the time at his place at around midnight. 3 minutes later, I get rear-ended pretty bad only 2 blocks away from his place in a completely open intersection. Never gotten in a crash before, so I was pretty shaken up. Car is totaled. Police everywhere. I call the guy. Like 20 minutes after I had dropped him off at this point, and he just tells me, "Dude, I don't have my pants on. I'm going to bed." That kinda sucked. Story 23. Had an older friend in college. We got along great. We helped each other get through. He invited me to his wedding a while later. I couldn't due to anxiety, but they went to Lake Louise for their honeymoon, in part because I had gone there while on a trip to meet someone I met online, mid-90s. Lost touch with him a while ago. Looked him up recently and found an article that he had been arrested for SA in a minor. Story 24. My boss, who had previously seemed like he was all for the employees, yelled at me to not talk about pay with my coworkers because it was against company policy, explicitly, like employees cannot discuss their pay with their coworkers type of wording. I mentioned that it was an illegal policy, and he said that he didn't care, that it was against the law, that it's corporate policy. I immediately lost all respect I had after 2 years of working for him, and also reported the incident and policy to the National Labor Board. Story 25. My husband and I were seeing a high school friend for a mini Halloween party. He had a girlfriend we were still getting to know. She seemed cool, and I was wanting to have some more friends that were girls to hang out with. My opinion of her was immediately ruined when she yelled at our friend, called him unacceptable names, slammed doors, and later poured a milkshake on his head. We since then tried to explain to him that she's abusive. He unfortunately doesn't talk to us anymore. He eventually married her, and I sometimes wonder how he's doing. Story 26-2 was walking through an airport and saw Joe Montana walking with 2 women walking toward me. And then I saw a young black kid, maybe 13, walking as fast as he could, and he had a look of complete awe and admiration on his face. He stopped in front of Joe Montana and held out a pen and paper and asked for his autograph. Joe M. didn't smile, waved him off, and got on the elevator with the ladies. The kid walked away looking seriously dejected. It was so sad. And I see Joe and his friends laugh and go up the elevator chit-chatting and not rushing anywhere. Never liked him after that. Story 27C. For me, it was when I was out with one of my work friends and her husband. Her husband's best friend always came along, and he was a pretty quiet guy. Very polite, very likable. Or so I thought. We were playing Uno, and he kept cheating and getting called out on it. Now I realize probably 8 or 9 out of 10 people would think that was a stupid thing to judge someone on. My thoughts, however. 1. It is just a game. So what difference does it make if you win or not? It's just dumb to cheat, IMO. 2. If someone will cheat at a game, at something that is frivolous and the outcome doesn't matter, if you're gambling that's a different matter, then what else will they cheat on or lie about when something really does matter and is really important? I was disappointed when I found out he was cheating and lost my respect for him. Probably an unpopular opinion, but I will also judge you if you don't push your chair in when you get up and if you don't return your shopping cart. So maybe I'm a Karen, IDK, whatever. Story 28. The biggest about face was a work friend at a job in college. It was one of those instantly great friendships. She was funny, smart, and we shared a ton of hobbies. She was dating one of the sweetest guys you could ever meet. He would bring her stuff at work to cheer her up, send her regular updates of their cat, etc. They lived together and he would cook her surprise dinners. And he gave up a full scholarship near his family to follow her to a pricey private school several states away. She was from a much wealthier family than him. Then one day she was telling me about this guy she was sleeping with. For a second I thought she broke up with her boyfriend, but she clarified that, no, she's been cheating on him all summer. She was over him, but didn't want to break up with him until their lease was up in a month to minimize the awkwardness. I've never stopped respecting somebody so fast. He could have had time to transfer to a more affordable school and find a place to live, but no, she strung him along to avoid a month or 2 of awkwardness. Thank God my contract was over because I couldn't stomach her after that. Never found out how everything went down, but I hope he is happy far away from her. Unfortunately, this was before social media was big, and I didn't have contact with him outside of a few times seeing him with her at work, so I couldn't warn him. Story 29. This guy was already a dick, but a bit special, let's say, so he had some tolerance and sympathy because of that. We were a restaurant in Hong Kong. Generally in Asia, tipping is not a thing, but it's appreciated when it happens. We all had drinks, maybe 7 of us. This one dude, who was a local, asked what we put the money on the table for. We'd already paid. We said it was a tip. He said what? We explained again. He understood what a tip was. He was a native English speaker. Motherfucker picks up the tip and puts it in his wallet. Refuses to put it back. An absolute piece of shit. Any tolerance I had for him evaporated immediately after that. Story 30. When I started at my job, a woman was nice enough, But eventually I realized how apathetic she was towards being good at her job. We constantly have to fix errors, tell her to do better. She asks questions to things she's been doing for years, drags tasks out for hours, can't prioritize. It's infuriating because I know she doesn't care. She's been there for 8 years with no promotion on purpose. I now cannot see her in any positive way whatsoever.